Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to this presentation from Fitch Learning. As you can see, titled How Fitch Learning Will Help You Pass the CFA Exams. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon, guys. I'm here, coming from London, and the London office of Fitch Learning. My name is Peter Menzies, and I'm one of the CFA instructors at Fitch Learning. And as you can see, we have a sort of a presentation for you coming up, which will explain firstly about the CFA designation itself, how it distinguishes itself from other qualifications you might choose to study, the advantages it gives you, and then of course why Fitch Learning really can help you, how it can help you get through all three levels of the CFA exam on your way to getting the CFA charter. Now, we basically want to start out with the right sort of level of commitment. And so the line that you have actually on the slide already, you see here, about commitment to CFA. If you commit to it, we'll commit to you. So already, pretty serious openings line there. The reason we're so serious is because the CFA Institute recommends that a successful candidate would spend on average 300 hours per level of the CFA exam. There's three levels, and they think approximately, on average, 300 hours is what you need to have studied in order to be successful. Now, having done the three levels myself about 10 or 12 years ago, I can say that that is about right. 300 hours is how much I need on average per level. Sometimes I needed more, sometimes a bit less, but it's about right. So we think about this, 300 hours would work out to, say, 15 hours a week over 20 weeks, or 20 hours a week over 15 weeks. I mean, it's something like this, isn't it? Where over a sort of 4 to 5 month time frame, you're having to commit between 15 to 20 hours a week. Now, as generally, as you may well, I'm sure you are generally full-time working people, certainly with lots of commitments in your day, trying to fit in 15 to 20 hours a week is tough. Think about having to give up, of course, your weekends for a start. That's almost a given. Trying to get 10 hours or so done on the weekend means that you have to give up a lot of your socializing and appointments that you have with your friends and family. And also trying to get some study done in the weekdays. Of course, you're tired after a full day's work. Trying to squeeze something in at lunch, perhaps, or in an hour after dinner or something. So all of that is, of course, a significant amount of sacrifice that you have to make over a fairly long period of time. Now, there's no doubt about, your intelligence or doubt about your ability. The question really is just your commitment. If you can stick with it, if you can stay the course, you generally will have a very good chance of being successful, especially if, for example, Fitch Learning here will be able to provide you with so much material and questions that you'll be able to practice and master topics. But if you don't think that you can commit that amount of time, then it doesn't matter how smart you are or your background, you just won't be able to grasp all the little facts and points to be successful. So that's, again, as our opening line there, if you can commit to that level and hours of study, then we will commit to you. Okay. So that's our opening little dialogue there. Let's have a look at some of this here. What is the first thing? What is the CFA charter anyway? Well, as the charter is a professional qualification which is awarded by the CFA Institute, and this body, of course, has been awarding this charter since last 50-odd years. So it certainly is now very well established and recognized across the world. Started, of course, as a US-centric qualification, but now very much a globally recognized gold standard, as it's been described by many in the investment industry, financial industry. Yes, it's about measuring the competency of your analysis as in finance, so the technical tools that you have, accountancy and pricing bonds, pricing shares, pricing securities, looking at the big picture economics. All these things, technical tools, but also your integrity. Because a major feature of this charter is a focus on ethical standards. So that already distinguishes it, I think, from many other professional qualifications, like an MBA. You might do, of course, a Master of Finance or something related, and you'll say, well, the technical standard may be as high or even higher, perhaps, but it doesn't focus on the ethical standards as much as this one does. And I think in this day and age, of course, we can imagine, financial firms very, of course, focused on getting the staff who have the ethical, of course, behavior as well as the technical behavior and standards, because that's, of course, going to drive the business forward long term. So it is recognized and is valued. Now, another thing which is worth pointing out, of course, is that it's only one exam for the entire world audience. Everyone sits the same exam on practically the same day. So if you manage to get through, and you really are being graded against a curve here, you're being compared to the rest of the world audience to see, well, the best get through. If you get through, that means you have competed with the best in the world. Same day, same test. So clearly, you are distinguishing yourself. Now that's going to be very clear then to any employer going forward that you are good if you can get through these types of exams. Rather than saying you've taken a qualification which is local to an area, local syllabus, maybe it's not comparable to another area, another country, so it's hard to maybe compare one candidate to another. Here, you don't have to worry about a comparison. It's one exam. Now, if you're thinking about moving within the industry, maybe you're working in the sell side, you want to move to the buy side, or you're working in capital markets, you want to go to investment banking or something. There's generally going to be some freedom and flow for you to move around because you have covered such a broad range of topics. The CFA Charter makes sure that you don't necessarily master any one area, but you do have a very broad level, good understanding of everything. So, flexibility, flexible. Workforce advantage, of course, increased knowledge, but you can move through various areas of the work of the industry. Now, of course, perhaps you're thinking, well, what is the syllabus of this charter? What do you have to do? What areas are covered? Well, basically there are 3 levels of the CFA exam, and the first one, basically level 1, is covering these following topics. You can see syllabus topic. So we can see generally these 10 topics here: ethics, quants, economics, etc., financial analysis. You can read down there all the way down to do alternatives and portfolio management. The thing is that this level 1 exam is a multiple choice paper. So you are required to sit 2 3-hour papers on either the first Saturday in June, generally, or indeed in special cases can be a little bit later, of course, in 2018, but generally the first Saturday in December or June. Now, 2 3-hour papers on that day, and all the sections are covered in each 3-hour paper, and covered according to these weightings that you can see here. Now, rather than generally just have a glance here, guys, which are the big areas really for level 1? Well, we can see 15% right away. There we go, ethics. We were talking about how important it is. It's given 15% of this 120 question paper. That's 18, of course, questions in the morning and 18 again in the afternoon sitting. So it'll be very difficult to score well in this exam if you didn't have a good score in ethics. Certainly they would regard this area as very important. If you were to get through, you generally should do pretty well here. And you can see how that importance maintains throughout levels 2 and 3. As you can see, it generally always hovers around 10 to 15% anyway. Now, specifically for level 1 and 2, the other sort of big area is accounting, financial reporting and analysis. And, a lot of people do come to me and say, well, how would it be, the accounting seems very important for CFA. Do you think that I should maybe do a qualification accountancy first? Would that help me? Is that better for me? What do you think? Well, qualifications like the ACA or ACCA or some kind of recognized accountancy qualification does, of course, give you knowledge as an accountant, how to construct a set of accounts, all the details. But the CFA is not about account construction. It is about analysis and adjustment from the point of view of the analyst trying to value something in the company. Of course, a security or something. So it is a different mindset. And although, whilst it would give you an advantage to have done perhaps an accountancy qualification beforehand, I don't think it gives you as much an advantage as you might think. Because the questions being asked of the analyst are, of course, totally different than you ask of an accountant. Anyway, if you have a background in accountancy, it certainly can't hurt. As you can see, such a massive area in both levels 1 and 2. Now, beyond that, the main thing to say is that CFA, is at level 1 anyway, is about understanding the key inputs and facts of topics. It doesn't really ask you to apply in any great detail your knowledge because the questions are very short. But there's so many facts and understanding of points that you need to do that the range is quite enormous. That's what's the challenge. So we say level 1 is about the actual knowledge base must be sound across a broad range of topics. You must be clear. You'll be given a chance to show that you've understood a broad range of topics. At level 2, it is multiple choice again, but it's a case study vignette style exam. So you have to read the case study, answer 6 questions, and basically it'll be 10 case studies in a 3-hour exam. So it'll be 6 questions per case study, so 60 questions. So basically half the questions over 3 hours than you had for your level 1. But for level 2 is harder because you're having to now apply your knowledge, apply to in-depth valuation and understanding. So they're harder questions and you have to read a lot more material. So clearly it's a high level, no doubt. Still though, multiple choice, morning and afternoon. Then in level 3, you can see actually the key topic changes. It's no longer accountancy at all. There's no accountancy at all. It goes to portfolio management, which becomes effectively half the exam. So focusing from more of a fund management perspective, the idea is to critique and to analyze portfolios and scenarios and to say what you think needs to be done in order to meet certain objectives. Now, that is actually tested through a essay-style response paper. So you have to actually write a solution in the morning. For 3 hours, you're writing solutions to problems. Then in the afternoon, 3 hours again, but now you're doing your case study type question that you did at level 2. So it's half case study, half essay-style response. So you can see, generally at level 3, they're saying, right, now you've got all the technical know-how, show it. Give me a, this is a scenario for you, show what you do. What's the solution to this problem? So, putting you in the real world almost. So it is building you up from 1 to 3. That's you can see, guys, look at the amount of topics you're covering. Everyone's got their strong area. And, mine, for example, I had a mathematics background. I was very comfortable in things like derivatives and fixed income, generally. But accounting, I had done no accounting when I came to level 1. So it took me time to really get comfortable with this. So everyone's the same. That's why we need to make sure that we start on time studying. So when we come to those areas we're not so comfortable in, we can give it the due attention and master it before the exam date. Okay, everybody, so that's just a feel of what the material is all about. But have you seen the global pass rates? Are you aware of the global pass rates? Well, if you haven't seen them before, well, this page here will give you all the information you'd ever want to know. The last sitting of level 1 basically was, it's just happened, of course, in December, but we have the data for June of 17 and, of course, last December as well. You can see the numbers, guys. It is generally always around this amount, the early 40% number, 43%, right? And then at level 2 in June, the level 2 and 3 sittings are only in June, not December, so you're only one sitting a year. But you can see 47% and 54%. And that's about right. Level 2 is generally hovering around the mid-40s, and level 3 is hovering around the early 50s, in percentage-wise. So that's still a huge amount of candidates, right? Almost half the candidates always fail this exam. And these are people in, the industry who studied. So clearly there must be a reason for why these pass rates are so low. We will think about this. We'll try to answer why is it so low. By the way, if you're wondering what Fitch Learning has as its pass rates for its delegates, I'm afraid the answer is I can't tell you, because we are an accredited training provider, an approved prep provider of the CFA Institute, and one of the things we have to agree to, we will not be disclosing our pass rates. Okay, that's just the way that we have to do it. However, hopefully you can see, well, as I'll show you, Fitch Learning has been doing and conducting training for many years across the world. So we do have a lot of experience, and hopefully that itself is a sign of our success. However, why are these pass rates so low? Well, a number of reasons really, but I can think of one main reason, and that's got to be that you start too late. I mean, generally we've talked about the 300 hours number. So if you start 2 months, for example, before the exam, just the amount of hours you're having to put in just becomes ridiculous, and you'll not be able to just complete the study. That's just too much material. Working inefficiently is to say, well, you may start on time, but you spend too much time focusing on what you don't need to, reading too much, rereading it, instead of reading once, trying to understand the key concepts and then doing some questions. You can waste valuable time by working inefficiently. You've got to have a good study structure. So basically a timetable and key dates where you know I must finish this by this date and then I'm on track. Very often when candidates are studying this by themselves, what happens, they focus on the wrong areas. So the CFA Institute always publish their learning outcome statements. This basically is what the candidate should be able to do in a certain topic. Now if they say that you have to calculate something, then okay, you have to learn the formula, you've got to be ready to calculate it. If they say you just got to understand the concept, then the formula does not need to be learned. Although they'll present a formula because it makes it clear what's going on, but you don't actually learn it. So you're wasting your time. For example, let's say learning the formula for skew, calculation of skew of a distribution, not tested. Don't waste your time learning the formula. Yeah. Now, I think we can all agree for any exam, the main way that you prepare is through question practice. Everyone loves question practice. It's the fastest way to learn efficiently. And so if you don't do the question practice, you're just, you're giving yourself a hard time. And poor exam technique just means generally, you are not able to discipline yourself through the exam, give yourself the time to read the question and then answer, move on. Not getting to, drawing it out too long, spending too long, changing your answers. That sort of thing generally is always a bad idea. Now, Fitch Learning can help you with all these study pitfalls. We can help you. The thing is, though, we will commit to you. When you sign up with us, guys, you'll be getting a personalized study planner based upon the date that you start. Okay? So the exam date, of course, we can't change that. But the date you start, we say we calculate how much time you have, and the system will basically allocate you dates which you must have finished certain areas of the syllabus. Okay, now, something which I'm going to show you this evening, I'll show you this afternoon anyway, show you guys called the Fitch Learning Cognition. It's our online portal of all our material, but not just our material, but also how it works. Well, this is smart software here. This is smart stuff. This is actually an adaptive algorithm that we've got running here, which effectively is tailoring to your needs. So, as I'll explain, when you are doing our questions in your, what I call your learning phase, right, when you're just learning concepts and facts, the Cognition portal will be noticing what questions you're getting right, wrong, and benchmarking you against the rest of our delegates, right? Benchmarking you. So it knows what standard everybody else is, what's good, what's average, what's weak. And when you come to doing a sort of an overall test on a topic, they'll say, right, this person has been getting this question wrong generally, and it's lower standard than the rest of our audience generally. So in the test that we give you, it'll be focusing on those weaker areas. Not giving you your strong areas, because clearly that's a waste of time giving you strong areas. You already mastered that. So targeting your weak areas in the learning phase, I think that's really smart. That you don't have to start by panicking. And you get to the review phase thinking, I don't know this, I didn't learn this very well. Well, it's okay. Cognition is adaptive to you. Now, I'll explain more about cognition. We'll see some screen grabs of what it looks like. But it is, guys, effectively unique, yeah, in the CFA training world. It is unique. So that's something to think about if you want to see that and use that. Now, in terms of the faculty of CFA trainers in Fitch Learning, I can say that myself, for example, I've been training for about 10 years now towards the CFA charter. Let's start with level 1, then level 2, onwards like that. But most of my colleagues have been doing 10 years or more. And so in London, for example, the combined teaching or training experience of the London faculty is about 100 years. So you can imagine the amount of knowledge and experience we have amongst us. Just to talk about how has the exam changed over, say, 10 to 15 years? What's been the focus of a certain area like accounting? What's changed? What stayed the same? Obviously, that tells us what's core, right? If it's core, it's going to be generally tested again and again and again. So that's something which our delegates must understand. And other areas which basically keep chopping and changing, we'll say, well, yeah, they want to keep up with this, but they're not going to make this the be and end all. It's not as core learning. Only an experienced faculty can really do that for you. And we do have that experience, yeah? Just a quick set, guys, about Fitch Learning, again, just saying who we are. Well, we've been going on since training in some capacity since the early 2000s, so almost 20 years now, and we do have a global faculty. Right? So indeed, guys, New York as well, Toronto in North America. There we've got London, of course, and Asia and the Middle East. We've got Singapore and Dubai offices. So our faculty is not just in one area, which I think we can agree. When you come to doing, let's say, your review phase, you want to ask questions of a trainer. You're not worried about, the time zone, there's nobody awake at this time. There's always somebody awake that you can log a question to wherever you are in the world. Our clients are, the global investment banks and fund management houses, all the major players, as you can see. It's an impressive list of names here. But we've been doing this for many years, built up a reputation. Okay, so let's talk about, guys, your journey. Your CFA journey with Fitch Learning. Now, these are general things I'll show you on the Cognition portal, as I say. That's our online platform. Look at your schedule. Look how you'll be learning, how you progress through that, and finally, the most important actually phase is the review phase, which of course is about mock exams and generally, final countdown studies. We'll talk all about that. Now, let's start with the actual schedule that you might have. When you basically sign up to our product, you're going to be given access, guys, to the online portal Fitch Learning Cognition. And the thing that happens first is that you'll see what the overall event is. So you'll see a tab here. This is a screen grab actually of Cognition. Okay, this is a screen grab what it looks like. And what you see is, let's say, because I'm doing the level 1 exam. Okay, that's me, and my exam is it's far enough away at the moment, but that clock will count down. How many days until the exam there, and then it tells me about the various tests that I have done and that I need to do. Okay, so it's already like a clock is ticking. This is where we're at. This is what you need to do. And obviously for the month in question, because this is actually showing me next year, May, but the month of May, the schedule which will be showing, of course, a lot of review classes. So for example, you are going to attend a 2-day review course. When is that? Make sure that you're ready to come to that with questions you might have. Or maybe you're doing some kind of mock exam, coming to a training center, and again, when's the date for that? So be ready for that. So it's all color-coded, explains what we need to do. And of course, the study dates will be starting from whenever you actually sign up to our product. That'll be the starting date. That's, of course, your choice when you start. But where it finishes, of course, is not your choice. Right? So the exam is, this time late June, 22nd of June, certainly the 23rd of June, I think it is, 2018. So until the 22nd of June, you're studying, that's it. That's the last day you can study, of course, for that Saturday exam. The product that you see, a screen grab here, of Cognition. When you look at, guys, what's going on, firstly, the CFA exam is split into topics. Okay, so the topics, remember we were saying, the weightings you saw, like, for example, ethics is worth 15%, isn't it? And reporting analysis there is worth 20% and so forth. So, that's the CFA's, of course, designated topics. And so we also have Cognition showing you material by topic, of course. And then within a topic will be a reading. Now, there'll be several readings per topic. And readings are basically chapters. So let's say 3 to 4 readings, roughly, on average, per topic. Now, that's, again, a CFA designation, or a CFA split on the material. But then what Cognition does is say, right, we're not going to learn material by a reading, because a reading is a big amount of material. So you won't be able necessarily to sit down for an hour, 2 hours to hear the entire lecture of the reading, or to do, say, 40 questions. You have half an hour, right? You've got time to do 10 questions. And so the thing is, Cognition says, right, we'll break material down. So, you basically have what's called here a topic tree. The topic tree shows you questions in the reading. And, you've got your, or should I say, study sessions again. So in a topic, you'll have a study session and readings per study session. But if you're on track with your material, basically these boxes here go green to say that you are on track. Green usually means that you've scored in excess of 70% of the questions that you attempted. And that's like the gold standard for us, because come the CFA exam itself, if you're scoring above 70% in an area, generally that's high enough to get through and pass. Above 70 is generally enough. So if you're scoring above 70 in our material, we also think that's enough. You don't have to get 100%. That's not important, right? Got to get good enough. So it goes green to say you're good enough. Now move on. Now, when you have completed an area to the high enough level, you basically be given some kind of badge indication, say, well done. EPS there is ethical and professional standards. You have done well, move on. And moving on to, say, accounting. Now you can see the topic tree shows that you've done some of the material correctly, but some is missing. So you need to complete a few tests before you go on to quantitative methods. And everything has a deadline, you see. There's always a date. You must finish accounting by this date, otherwise it's overdue. So, let's delve deeper into Cognition. Now, as you can see, this is again another screen grab, but when you actually, let's say we tap into the topic tree for accounting, this is what you'd see. So let's remark again, guys. Study sessions are per topics. Yeah. So let's say accounting has 4 study sessions. Let's say 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say, yeah, has study sessions. Now in a study session, you'll have the readings. Again, these are all CFA marked and outlined. Now there'll be several readings per study session. Okay. Now in a study session and reading, what flows from that is the most important thing here, called a knowledge check. So let's have a look at that. Knowledge checks are bite-sized sets of questions. So it's like saying, well, the candidate should be able to discount a future cash flow. That is a learning outcome. So of course the question would be that you must be able to do that. But to be able to do that, you must be able to understand what a discount rate is. You must also be able to say, do you know how to annualize or de-annualize, if necessary, a rate? Maybe simply or with compounding. So these would not be learning outcomes, but they would be what we call atoms. And atoms are the building blocks of what we need you to do. And so the knowledge checks are actually about atomizing the learning. Bite-size videos, maybe 5 minutes, no more than that. And then a set of questions, maybe 5 at most on the video. So they say, right, you haven't got lots of time on your hands, but you can do a 5-minute video and 5 questions. And that's great. So atoms, we focus here, and these knowledge checks are a part of your learning phase, and it's bite-sized material. Now, like I'm saying, the cognition is smart enough to be able to say, right, where is this individual really struggling? Okay, and based upon your performance in the atoms, when you come to do what's called a knowledge check, a knowledge check is actually then going to be questions selected for you based upon your performance in the atoms. If you are scoring well in the knowledge check, let's say, for example, two friends sat down and went through and did their knowledge check at the same time. They would not get the same questions because both of them have struggled in different areas. So it's tailored learning. Where you struggling adapts to you. And also, the number of questions that you do will not be the same either. Because if one individual is scoring, let's say, 7 questions in a row, let's say, for example, correct, maybe 10 questions in a row, let's say 10 questions in a row, no mistakes, the Cognition portal says, you've mastered this, move on. Maybe there are 60 questions actually available in this area, but you've got the first 10 right, and they're all different and all on tricky areas that you struggle. You've actually mastered this. So you don't need to do the other 50, right? Move on. Whereas the other guy who has gotten, say, 3 right, then 4 wrong, and then 3 right, then basically just keeps on giving you more questions after some time saying, right, you are struggling, you can't get, a consecutive number of questions right, you haven't mastered this topic properly enough. So you have to come back out, you'll have to do some more reading and study of that, and try again. You have not been able to get through the knowledge check. So how do you like it? That is the thing. It's smart. Now, if you ask me, well, Peter, how many questions are there in the learning phase? It's probably around 3,500, right? There's huge amounts of questions overall, 3,500 questions. But do you need to do all the 3,500? Probably not. So we talk about studying efficiently. Efficiently is to get through the learning phase in a smart way, not necessarily just doing all the questions is the best way. Yeah? And if you are, however, someone says, no, I want to be thorough, I don't want it pushing me on, I want to do all the 60 questions, you can always do that. There is a library separate to Cognition, basically old-fashioned way. You've got a block of questions here, do all of them in your own time, and of course, review every single one of them. Yeah, so you have that access if you want. But I like the idea of this portal saving your time, because the sooner you get to the review phase, and as a candidate myself, I remember in the learning phase you learn something, you might think you forget it, you learn something, you forget it. It's difficult to know until you get to review phase, have I actually remembered this stuff? So the longer you leave the review phase, or you push it too far back, the worse it is. So I think that's why it's smart to use the Cognition portal. Okay, guys, so that's generally the idea. Now, basically, when you finish your knowledge checks, like I say, which is based on the atoms, you will be required to then do a stay session test. Like I say, stay sessions are per topic. And that's almost exam standard. Okay, it's not quite exam standard, but it's getting there because you are also getting towards the review phase. Study session tests are going to be roughly 20 questions of near exam standard, and you just do all of them. Yeah, you just do all of them, that's fine. But Hopefully, if you've successfully gone through the knowledge checks, you should be able to complete the study session test as well. Now, of course, over 4 or 5 months, you're doing all these questions and study, and you want to make sure, well, how am I doing? Can I check my progress? So always, of course, your progress is going to be the first thing is, how many days do I have until the exam? Right? That's always at the back of your mind. But you also have, what is the knowledge checks that I have done? Hopefully, I've done more than there are remaining, right? But clearly, the remaining ones have to go down to 0. And of course, guys, a nice little color coding here. All the 10 topics, let's say for level 1. And, when you have your completion to the high enough level, let's say here, ethics, professional standards has been done, it's gone purple, got a badge to say, well done, move on. Now, the ones we don't want to see is too much of the orange, because that means you have basically gone overdue. It is past the date you were supposed to finish that, and that means you're going to have to put up your socks now because you're falling behind. Right, falling behind is the worst thing with CFA, because once you fall, it's very hard to get it back. So this color coding keeps it simple. Try to stay on track. And of course, at the end, all of this should go purple. All the topics should be colored. Say you've completed it to the high enough level, and off you go. Start reviewing the mock exams now. Okay. Also in the review phase, obviously if there are, let's say, bits that you haven't finished. So review phase, guys, is basically talking about now going the last month. I mean, I'm thinking 6 weeks, perhaps a month before the exam. It's really time for review. And you need that time. Starting out with things like, have you finished all the study session tests? If not, if they haven't been done to a high enough level, please make sure you go back and do that before you approach the mock exams, because it's a stepping stone, right, of difficulty to the next level. So we need you to finish that. So you can see, let's say in quants, for example, I've done quite badly here. My score's definitely not good enough to progress, right? It's in red, or I need to go green. I need above 70%. Nowhere near that there. So I'll take time to do that. And a month before the exam, you can do that. Right? That's the idea. Make sure you finish your study session tests. Now, I mean, yeah, as a delegate myself, candidate myself, I remember the one thing I want more than anything else in the last month before the exam is lots of exam-style questions. And although the Institute does not release past papers, and so we don't focus on past papers because the syllabus always changes every year anyway. What matters is that you have, very much robust exam-style questions written by people who have taken a lot of time over it and have, of course, seen a lot of questions over the years. So we write questions, and that's what we share with you. And it'll be, guys, 5 mock exams. 5 complete mock exams, which you have access to in that last month of study, a part of your review tab. Okay, so 6 hours, right, per exam times 5. So that's plenty already. And besides that, you have what's called progress tests. The progress test will generally be, it's like a mini mock. You have access to that as well, covering the major topics like accounting, equities, fixed income, and quants. So let's say the hard-hitting areas. And it is, guys, about saying, well, now go ahead and take a look at all these questions and do your best to complete it in essay time. So I had a question just come in here, guys, saying, have you had students enrolled that are not coming from front office background, e.g. lawyers? What are some of the reasons given by such students for taking the exam? Well, absolutely. I mean, people who are thinking of a career change. We had accountants, lawyers, teachers, coming from all sorts of backgrounds who sit level 1, particularly because they want to give their resume that edge and they want to give themselves a foot in the door, because it's a way of starting that dialogue by saying, well, okay, I come from a different background, but I clearly have aptitude for what we do, what you do, be your buy-side fund manager or sell-side investment bank. I can show that I have interest and aptitude, that I've actually gone ahead and taken the level 1 exam already. So, absolutely. I mean, it's by and large, people from all backgrounds do come into this as a way of progressing and giving themselves that flexibility. They choose not to do it, fair enough, but they've got the choice. It does give you that standout feature, I think. So it's just saying that the review phase is not just about mock exams, because I'm thinking, well, I want to focus on certain areas which are difficult. Like I said, I had no accounting background, so I made use of what they call workshops, which are targeting the most difficult areas of a topic, such as in accounting, topics like deferred tax or leases. That can be quite tricky. So a workshop would target leases and deferred tax. Not because the exam is going to be full of that, but because candidates can understand other stuff quite quickly, but this one they're struggling with. So the workshop will take you through some very tricky questions step by step. So in your review phase, you're thinking, well, I've learned a big body of knowledge, but I keep getting this stuff not very clear. I've got time to have a good workshop on it. Now, besides that, you've got what they call the final countdown. Final countdown is basically a summary of all the formulas in one place. It is like a formula sheet, but there's more to it than that, because it also explains how what the effects are on certain ratios and numbers. It's a very quick and good summary of facts, but it's only to be used right at the end. It's when you have already finished all your studying. I think maybe a day or two before the exam, you want to just keep yourself sharp. Don't tire yourself out. Very useful for that. And take it to the exam as well, right? It's going to be something you can maybe use in the morning, use in the lunch break. Just keep yourself sharp. That's it. Besides that, you've got what's called, you've got lots of videos. Guys, you've got videos on what to expect on the day and what techniques to be aware of, because nothing can always sort of prepare you for the experience of a CFA exam sitting. You have to have gone through it, but at least somebody telling you that it's going to be hugely stressful. Thousands and thousands of young people, of course, or effectively competing against each other. It is quite an experience. But if you hear from someone who's done it, I think that really does make it easier to take it yourself on the day. So I mean, things like that. You can watch videos on just technique as well. Now I'm thinking the review phase possibly has near 2,000 questions in it. So if you're thinking, do I have enough questions in the review phase? Definitely. I mean, like as I was saying, review phase is also about ability to do questions with a tutor or trainer. Classes can be run in a region where 2 days you come to a session, and it's just 2 days of just timed question practice. And they're all exam standard, obviously. All the topics, exam standard. So that's, again, some people like to study at home. Some people don't want to come to a classroom during the review phase. It's okay, we record everything anyway. You can access the questions yourself. Mock exams. We generally will have at least one mock exam sat in an exam center, in a Fitch center, to basically, mimic the actual day experience. We give you, like, the Scantron sheet that you have to fill in with a pencil. That's how it works. No pen, just pencil. Just fill in the oval, A, B, C option. So all that's basically mimicking the real thing. And then we scan your score sheet and we get it back to you, your score. So if you, that really gives you, this is how it works in a day. Now, if you don't want that, that's okay, because the mock exams, all of them will be available online anyway. You can download them and take them whenever you want. So guys, lots of combinations of how you can tackle the review phase. Up to you. Now we're on the the remark we have here now, what are the study options at Fitch Learning and what would you like to do? I mean, basically, it is up to you how you want to study. There is what they call daytime, evening and weekend options for studying with us. Now, to be fair, that's really up to you, but it's always going to be 10 teaching days. Yeah, 10 days of actual teaching of material. So you can do that days, of course, Monday, Tuesday, 9 to 5. Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 to 5 each day. You can do it on evenings. This will be generally 6 to 8:30. An evening counts as half a day, so basically you'll have 20 evenings covering 10 days. Weekend options, of course, Saturday, Sunday. I'll give you the details about who you can contact, depending which one you want to go for. There's also an intensive program, which would be a crash course, 5 days. That's half the time. That's really for somebody who's already done a lot of pre-work themselves, wants some focused study to get them exam ready. So please think about that if you are doing a lot of your own study yourself. Because obviously it's half the time. We can't teach you everything in 5 days. But the revision, as I said, is going to be question focused. You all come to that and say, well, let's just tackle questions under time conditions. Now, if you don't want to come to any of these days, remember, all of our options give you access to our online Cognition portal. And that's, as we've seen, very smart kit. It also will give you access to live lectures, which we webcast. So if you want to just have that experience of what is going on in a classroom setting, you can just make sure you log on at the right time and you'll be in a classroom effectively. If you can't even watch that, don't worry, because it'll be recorded and it will be chopped up and ready for you, edited, and you can watch it later. So you don't really miss out on the classroom environment even if you're online distance learner. Also, all of our candidates have unlimited access to, of course, Cognition, but also our mobile app, which is compatible with iOS and Android systems. So, if you are offline, traveling, you can do all of the questions and watch the recordings. And when you go into a Wi-Fi area, all of your scores will sync with the portal. Yeah, so there you guys. It's all in all smart stuff here. You can study pretty much anywhere you want, anytime you want. And finally on that, guys, like I was saying, we have a global faculty. So you have access to us around the clock. We will prioritize your help desks. We aim for the same day turnaround. Especially in the month of review, a lot of faculty members will just be sitting at a table answering questions of the audience. Right? So your priority in the last month especially. All right, guys, so last bits here, your next steps. If you're interested in any of that, guys, you can think about what option you want to choose from Fitch Learning. I'll give you the details of your local learning advisor in a moment, but just book with them, see what your options available are. But remember, if you do book any of our options before or by the 13th of December, then you will receive a 15% discount on the price. So please do think about that if you're interested. And here are some details for you, your contacts to think about. So guys, you're in Europe, we have the email address there, stevebrady@fitchlearning.com. And the Americas region, got Evan Martel there. Please do contact them, guys. And whatever happens, I wish you the very best with your studies. And look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks very much for watching. And bye for now.